everyone, it's Paige with The Paige Show. I hope you're loving what you're watching or hearing. Don't forget to subscribe where you can, share the love, follow us on social media, and today's episode is going to be about some of my favorite things. So as we progress in the series and just progress with the topics on The Paige Show, you're going to understand some of the tools that I use in my daily life. We're going to have some fun with them. I'm using 2 cameras here. We're going to see all of the beautiness of like my spread here as you see me just kind of waving over my beautiful cards and crystals. Just some of my favorite things. We'll get into those more like with our toolbox series. That's coming soon. It's a big project in the making, but I hope you'll enjoy it when I finally am able to release it. However, an insight to that would be this that's in front of you, these beautiful cards and crystals. So crystals are huge in my everyday life. I just want to show you that beautiful quartz that I have. You can see the amethyst and moonstones on my fingers and my amber here. It's just it's a big part of who I am. The stones that I wear daily on my wrist, all of that. This is just who I am. It is something that has been in the making, something that worked for me. I love crystal energy. I have them hidden everywhere and visible everywhere in my world, my office, my home, wherever it is. And if I go on vacation, they're coming with me. They're much like, you know, my babies, my crystal babies. But if you have not really bonded with crystal energy, you know, I can understand why. It's one of those really big intangibles that we talk about. You have to wrap your brain around. But if you have bonded with it, you know what I'm talking about, where you can just pick it up and you almost feel like the vibration in it. And so I have, I start talking with the crystal energy because I use that actually in how I pick my cards. So you see here, I'll have many decks of cards. Here is my beautiful past life deck, all right? And on it, I always keep my really nice citrine crystal. I love rough stones, so I don't have a lot of smooth polished stones. I like all of them rough, like in their natural state. It's a clue to my personality right there. I have my Archangel Michael cards. We'll talk more about archangels as well and like their role that they've had in my life. It's a huge foundation of what I started from and a big piece to the that Bible Belt girl part of me that I told you will just never really change. The perceptions of it are much different. And so I have that beautiful deck. And then this is one of my favorites. Of course, they're all my favorites, but this is my Numerology Deck. Some beautiful cards here. And I keep my amethyst on this one. If you can see my rough amethyst point here. Beautiful crystal. And then I have all of these babies. This is kind of like how I set up before I do a session with a client, whether it's in person or over the phone or however that works. This is the setup. You know, these crystals are cleared and everything's got its place. I know which ones belong with which, and that's just kind of my spread. So then we have my beautiful just a love message deck. It's all these really gorgeous divine messages with a little bit of, well, you can see the first card, alchemy here. We're going to talk about some of that as well. And my beautiful stones with these always stay together. All right, I just love sharing those. Get a close-up of how beautiful all of those are. This is a rough all natural emerald here, very special, big part of my birthstone as well. And then this is my love deck. It's a James Van Praag deck of cards. James Van Praag has been a very special person for me in my journey as far as my mediumship, and love a lot of the messages that he shares coming from a very place of love and compassion. His energy is a little different than some. All mediums have their own thing. I love I love all of the mediums. I love all of the people out there doing the work or trying to do this work in a world that doesn't make it easy. But I have this beautiful deck as a memory of actually doing a couple of workshops with him, and so that's very special, but used a lot in my work as well. And so then I have these little amethyst rough. My favorite amethyst is probably my favorite, along with clear quartz I showed you before, little points here. So I just love all my babies. This one here, beautiful, given to me from my best friend, my best Colorado friend. You know who you are. And so this is just a little insight to what I do behind the scenes. When we talk about the Toolbox series, I'm going to actually show you how to use cards and to pick decks and things like that in a more deep way, because it's an actual teaching series. But today I thought it would be cool because I'm going to start doing weekly card spreads, and they'll be with whatever decks, you know, call to me at the time. But now you kind of have an insight to all of the different things that I work with. These have been my favorite decks that I've collected through the years. This beautiful message series here, where again alchemy is at the top. I just love that. I can't wait to teach that. That was my first deck, and so I started with loving rocks. I just love rocks as a kid, collected them, love all about it, like being out in the rocks. So of course love the Rocky Mountains, right? But then that love spread to like, oh, there's crystals. There are actually like pretty rocks, because I love pretty too. And so I really started to bond with the crystals, and that was another modality on my way to connect with source that I could, that I realized in my life could help me tap in to different energies, to connect with energy, to even acknowledge that energy was there. I've talked about Reiki playing a big role in that for me, and crystals were the same. And so they bring life to my decks. They clear my decks after I've used them, but I also use the energy of them to pick the decks. And so we'll talk about today just real briefly like how you can pick a deck of cards, because that's where you have to start. If you're looking at these cards and you're like, I don't even know how to get there, like I don't even know if I would want a deck of cards, all of that comes up, then you have to look at these beautiful spreads and just see, you can see the beauty, but you have to acknowledge that there's an energy to these cards. And so when you go to pick a card, a deck of cards, there's an energy involved. So you have to first understand energy. We talked about some of that. And then, you know, figure out how you perceive your energy so that you can use it to do something like pick a deck of cards. Now, these decks are all completely different. This one in the center is your traditional tarot. All right, and it's just a different type of artist that did these. It's my favorite tarot deck, but it was my last set to get. You know, I got all of these message decks first. I first got angel decks, you know, after my alchemy message deck, but I got all of these just kind of how I was led. My past life deck, they all just came in like as I needed them, as I was drawn to them, but that's because I knew how to perceive that. So understand how you get messages, you know, listen to my series. I talk about that a lot in Diaries of a Medium, and then figure out, well, divine downloads too. There's an easy one. Right? Figure out how you get the energy, and then use that to figure out how to pick tools that help you in your daily life, something as simple as these cards. And so when I would go to a store, I would already know I can feel a warmth out of my hand. So I would, you know, hover over a deck of cards, feeling the energy, and if it, you know, didn't feel that same warmth, the life coming from the deck, then it wasn't for me, you know, and I would hover over the next one. And I would do this sometimes with my eyes closed. So maybe I would go to the wall of cards and I would say, you know, intuitively, because I get messages that way as well, I would say, I'm drawn to this, and this deck, maybe 3 decks, right? And I would take it to the table or counter, wherever I could at the store, and I would close my eyes and I just let my hands hover over the different options that I was drawn to, and I would feel the energy differently over each of them. You can perceive it differently, and you know which one's kind of giving you the life force. That's how that's what I call the energy, right? And then you'd pick the deck. And so that's how all of these were picked at different times in my life, and I probably have a million other decks, throughout my house or storage or whatever, but these are really my active decks. And so you'll find that as well. You'll find that certain tools you're drawn to at certain times of your life may not always be there to serve you. They may not stay. They'll come and go as you need them. But overall, it's about finding a tool. We need a way to drop in and check in and clear ourselves on a daily. We talk about that a lot on the Paige Show. So this is an insight to one of my ways. I love the message decks because you really can use it almost like a daily devotional. If you look at this Archangel deck here, you can see the beautiful different angel messages. So, for me, I love to read. I truly love to read. Clearly, I'm a writer. But there's some times where I'm just not in the space to read. I couldn't receive. Early in the morning, my life starts off, 90 miles an hour. And it's not a state I'm going to be able to read a devotional with, but I can pick from a deck of cards. And so oftentimes that's what I'll do. You'll find me right before I'm getting out of bed or making myself known that I'm awake. Gotta do these things when you do them. I'll pick from my deck, and I will, get my message of the day. And I'll tell you how I pick in a second, but it can be as simple as what you just saw me do. I, shuffle the cards, or I fan them out, and I pick the card that I feel energetically is what, I should have. And so this is a beautiful one that I picked. Archangel Michael, thank you for assisting me with whatever that is for you, all right? Please help me be filled with faith and peace at all times. And so you can see how this deck in particular is really devotional based. So no matter what, background you're listening to the Paige Show from, that's an easy deck that you can't really deny the beauty in. The Archangel Michael, messages from angels, that's huge for even people with a religious background. And so when you talk about cards, it's another thing that can separate people. They immediately think of the tarot, which clearly I have here and I told you about, right? But cards as a whole, there's just so many out there that you could pick and just choose to use as a devotional if you never go any further. But how you start to really bond with the cards is clearly, beginning with how you pick it. And so you pick it. Some of you may not need to feel the energy, you just have a knowing, depending on how you get the message of that's the deck for you. Either way, when it's your deck, you'll know it, and then you really have to bond with it. And so people laugh when I say that, but I sleep with my deck. When I first get a deck, it's right by my bed. This one is really, really good one for just messages as well. I'm gonna pull one of these for some reason. I'm feeling led to do that, so I do what I'm told. But I'll sleep with these decks and really bond with them in the beginning, and then I do kind of like a prayer over my heart chakra with the deck, and it's kind of a ritualistic ceremony that I will go through to where I'm acknowledging to spirit, yes, this is my deck, it has my energy on it now. So it's very important that, on that side note here, other people do not use your decks, okay? Your decks are your decks. You want the messages to stay consistent for you. Even if you're using them on someone else, you're the vessel giving the message. So you have to make sure the message is coming through in the way that you're going to receive it and be able to use it for yourself or others. And so making that part of your heart chakra has been a part of my ritual with that. And then when I go to actually pick a card, I don't do the traditional spreads. We'll go into all of that in our toolbox series, but for purposes of this episode today, I do a really quick fan. So I will sort the cards. I will do whatever I feel as far as like shuffling them, you know, mixing them around. But when I pull, I often just spread them in my hands. I like the energy in my hand, and I'll say, all right, I know that I'm going for this one over here. All right, something that simple. I'll put it here where you guys can see it. And so I held it in my hand the whole time, and I really let the energy guide me on to which card I wanted to pull, or if I was going to pull 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. So again, not a traditional spread, but what works for me and what I have found really works for clients, especially if you're just having like that one question, like kind of that one question of the day, or one thing that you want to kick your day off with. Sometimes you just want that one card, right? That's what you need. And so here, you guys will understand so much of my life by this card that I pulled, the one I felt led to pull here, commitment. You dedicate yourself to your beliefs wholeheartedly, knowing that love is the essence of your very being. And so this card, again, showing that this deck is just so beautiful with its messages. Commitment is a huge thing in my life, and so for me to pick that card while I'm, you know, on this live, this is not being edited, you know, that is a perfect example of how these cards, when they're actually yours, they speak to you. I could be talking to you, feeling the energy to pull a card, and I pull exactly what I need, because even today, if you knew what it took for me to be able to make it behind this camera, you would know that it has to take a lot of commitment on my end to continue to do this work, because there are days where it would be easier to say, nope, I am staying in my pajamas. There are days that I do just stay in my pajamas and really hoping that I don't have to like get out of the car unexpectedly or whatever. But it's like, you hear me stumble over the words. I told you guys, like, this is real. I'm not even editing that. It is what it is. But you know, it's really hard. Again, it's hard for me to stay committed sometimes, and yet here I am. And so I think that that's a beautiful message to end on when we're just talking about the cards. So today's point really was just to share some of my favorite little things as I get my crystals lined back up here with where they go and who they belong to. They got a place for everything. Just understand that if you want a quick, easy tool to help you in whatever way you want to do it, whether you're getting a message from the divine through a traditional tarot, or you want more of a devotional type deck, there are many options, as you can see, many options here. And let your soul, let that driver of the car that we talk about, find its way to a tool that's going to help you, that could help ground you or help you start your day off right and the right energy to kick ass all day, because we all need that. Right? We all need it. And so here's one for you, whether it's crystals or cards or both. Just find what serves you. That's what the Paige show is about, throwing some ideas out, and I hope that you enjoyed today.